Are you currently considering transitioning from a vegetarian to a vegan lifestyle? I have some really important things for you to consider in this video. I'm Carly. For anybody who's new here, I make videos on whole food, plant-based nutrition. My videos tend to come out every Monday and Thursday, so make sure you watch for those. Let's get right into these considerations. The first thing you want to think about is why you became vegetarian in the first place. Was it for health considerations? Maybe ethical, environmental, economical? There are so many great benefits to a vegetarian and a vegan diet that I'm sure they're probably complementary or even identical. So know your why going into this. And something that can help you with that is educational materials. The more you learn about this lifestyle, the more enthralled you're going to be with it, the more enticing it's going to become, because the evidence out there for the endless benefits are just undeniable. So I recommend books like The China Study by Dr. Colin T. Campbell, Proteinaholic, The Pleasure Trap by Dr. Alan Goldhammer and Dr. Doug Lisle, How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger, as well as many, many other books written by excellent doctors like Dr. Joel Fuhrman, Dr. Popper, Dr. Milton Mills, Dr. Esselstyn, and Dr. Garth Davis is another great inspiration. I also recommend documentaries like What the Health, Forks Over Knives, Cowspiracy, and Game Changers. That's the new one that just came out. That one's particularly interesting for athletes that are considering making this transition. There are also podcasts, peer-reviewed journals, YouTube videos. The internet is an endless sea of information. Now, you can't take all of it at face value. Make sure you educate yourself a little bit on learning the good evidence from the bad evidence, because this can be tricky to navigate. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is probably the most crucial portion of this video. There is definitely a right way and a wrong way to go about this transition. And I'm not a doctor, I'm not a dietitian. I do have a background in plant-based nutrition, and I currently run a health coaching business. So if you're interested in more one-on-one support when it comes to this transition, make sure you contact me directly with the link I have below in the description box. Okay, let's talk about the wrong way. This is very, very common, and it makes total sense when you think about it. If you are someone who relies on a lot of convenience products, you're likely going to be one of those individuals that tries to transition to a vegan diet by substituting their old vegetarian processed foods with their new vegan processed foods. And this is totally fine if you're doing it as like a stepping stone, if you're doing it very temporarily before you actually start diving into this lifestyle. But I just want to caution you, because these can be very tantalizing and they can be very addictive and very fattening and very harmful to your health. So make sure you use them lightly. These are things like vegan butters and vegan cheeses and vegan cookies and cakes and all those goodies that have been engineered in a lab somewhere to target your innate pleasure centers to make you crave and eat more and more of these products. You don't need them. They are completely unnecessary, and you can utilize whole natural foods for every possible situation that you would normally use those other foods. And I'll give you specific examples in a second. But first I want to express the right way to go about this transition. Obviously, I promote a whole food plant-based diet, so this is not going to come as a shock to you, but I wholeheartedly feel that whatever journey you're on in this transition, you're going to get there a million times faster and more successfully if you transition from eating your vegetarian processed foods or your vegetarian foods in general to eating whole natural vegan foods. So things like beans, potatoes, rice, vegetables, fruits, seeds, and nuts. These are all perfectly designed for our bodies. They have been created by nature to nourish us. They have not been created by a food engineer somewhere in a lab. They contain all the nutrition that your body is going to need. I have lots of videos on this topic if you want to check those out. Okay, let's jump into those healthy, specific alternatives to your original vegetarian counterparts. So things like eggs. You can easily use flax and chia seed to make that same gooey egg consistency. You just add a little water, stir it up, and let it sit for about 5 to 10 minutes, and it literally provides the same exact texture and outcome in your whatever it is that you're baking. Now for frying eggs, I recommend using crumbled tofu. It is astonishing how similar this is going to taste. Just sprinkle a little paprika and maybe some pepper and scramble it up the same way you would scramble eggs, and it's delicious. You can also use pureed fruit and starches like sweet potatoes and squashes, as well as applesauce and banana, to create that same moisture and volume that you're looking for from utilizing eggs in your baking. If you're interested in the specifics of the healthy vegan alternatives to your vegetarian eggs, dairy, honey, any kind of sweeteners or oil substitutes, check out this video above. I go through these one by one in a very concentrated manner, as opposed to this quick layout. So the next alternative is pretty obvious: transitioning from milk to plant milks, or water, or whole fruit juices, depending on what you're using it for. If you're making smoothies, you can use any of these or all three. If you're making oatmeal, you might want to stick to the plant milks. And there's so many varieties of plant milks. There's oat, soy, hemp, coconut, almond, cashew, hazelnut. The list goes on, and they can all be used for different baking techniques and different flavors and textures that you're seeking in your cooking. The next thing that people really struggle with is transitioning off the cheese. So cheese actually has casomorphines in it that creates an addictive response in our brain. This is the opiate pathway. That's why you get kind of a calm, soothing, laid back feeling when you eat way too much cheese. And it's not just the bloating you're experiencing and the indigestion in your tummy. There's actually addictive properties in this substance. If you're interested in learning more about that, Dr. Neil Barnard has some excellent books dedicated to this topic. Particularly the cheese trap is the one that's coming to mind. So great whole food plant-based alternatives to using cheese are things like nutritional yeast. You can use nut bases. Cashews tend to be the typical nut utilized in whole food cheese alternatives. And recently I've actually been using boiled carrots and potatoes in my cheese substitutes. You just sprinkle in some nutritional yeast and some chipotle seasoning, some smoked paprika, and it literally tastes like cheese, from what I recall cheese tasting like. It's been so long. But even my boyfriend, who is completely omnivorous, eats cheese like it's going out of style, is completely satisfied by eating these cheese alternatives. And these go great on things like steamed broccoli and sweet potatoes and tacos and nachos, all sorts of awesome vegan goodies. Okay, ice cream. This one's also super easy. Just use frozen fruit. Frozen bananas make the same exact consistency as you would get from ice cream in the grocery store. You could also use frozen berries and other fruits to make the nice creams or the sorbets. Raspberry is a great one. Cherry, wild blueberries makes a really interesting flavor. You can also add different flavored vinegars to these to spice them up a little bit. The possibilities are truly endless. If you have not tried these, you need to give them a try. But I do recommend using a high-powered blender. Those are helpful in creating that same ice cream consistency you're looking for. Mayonnaise. Now, I know it's going to be tempting to jump to that vegan alternative of mayonnaise. I think it's called like Veganaise or something. But trust me, the same crap that you're gonna find in the vegan version is the same crap that you were eating in the vegetarian version. So these are likely gonna be heavily processed oil-based alternatives, and it's so unnecessary and so unhelpful. A more healthful option is to use natural homemade condiments. So things like nut-based dips and dressings, or seed-based nuts and dressings. You can also use vinegars, and mustard is a great alternative, as well as salsas and hot sauces. And don't neglect your herbs and seasonings, because those are powerhouses when it comes to phytochemicals and antioxidants. The last one I'm going to mention is honey. Now this is totally your preference. Some vegans choose to continue eating honey. There's less research on this one, so I'm not too particular about it. I personally don't eat it, but I am not completely on the fence about it, as with some of the other things. Yes, if you have any kind of sugar cravings or addictions, you need to refrain from eating honey, just like the rest of the sweeteners I'm about to mention, because they do trigger those same pathways in the brain. But if you are an individual who's not particularly sensitive to the impact that sugar has on the brain, you are more than welcome to try maple syrup or things like date paste and blackstrap molasses. These are actually really high in vitamins and minerals, particularly things like calcium and iron. Those make great honey alternatives for sweeteners. So experiment with these, make them your own, try different combinations. There are so many resources and plant-based recipes online these days, cookbooks. I have Dr. Greger's How Not to Diet cookbook. It is phenomenal. It has desserts and breakfasts and appetizers and everything in between. There's one of the tofu scrambles I was talking about. Highly recommend this cookbook. especially for those of you trying to lose or maintain weight. So I hope this video was helpful. It's so important to me to open up the floodgates for more and more people to join this lifestyle, and I so hope that you found some value in this video and are able to utilize some of these tips in your transition. If you are having any trouble along your path, make sure you leave me comments below or contact me directly. My information is in the description box. I am more than happy to chat with you guys and get on the phone and talk about what it is that you're struggling with and how we can work through these barriers. All right, I'll catch up with you guys in the next video.